Hi, this is Sandy coming to you with the Sandy Cam.
So, hi everybody, I'm Sandy Mackey.
I'm Al Curtis.
He's Al Curtis. And this is Mike Z. And today, as never seen before, Mike is going to take my place in the conversation with Ask the Pool Guy. I think you deserve it, Mike.
Wow, after this long? She's giving me the right.
So who is Mike? Hopefully you listen in the podcast. You will find out more, along with a lot of other never before heard about secrets that the pool guy may have, because Mike has known Al for a very long time. So enjoy.
Since the very first one. I helped Al at the very first pool show. We were set up right by the door. He was kingpin back then. I mean, he was the key guy that helped set up the pool show back then. I mean, there weren't that many pool guys really getting involved. Yeah. But boy, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, that was 1996. Yeah.
I retired from my other job in 95. So yeah, that would have been 96. And oh, I tell you, at that time they were using both sides of the hall. It was pretty big. And some people would come in and set up, I mean, real elaborate pool centers. It's scaled down a little bit. There's a lot here today, but not quite like it was 25 years ago.
It's definitely different.
My pool or his?
No, the first booth.
The first booth at the show.
I sure can. What we had.
You're thinking about the second booth, I think.
Well, tell us about.
Go ahead. Tell me what you think it is.
I could almost. Wasn't that with the dummy pool? With the.
That was the second year.
The second. I don't remember the first year.
So what did the second year look like?
Second year, we had a CAFCO demo pool, and we set it up, put water in it. It had a little leak out the back somewhere, but we made it work. It worked real good. They brought in water and at that time, all the pools were getting filled. I mean, Mr. Wacko, what was his name?
Wacko, I don't know.
Dave was his first name. He would be busy for 2 days just filling the pools. And that was pretty good, but we were pitching. Everybody walked by. We were waving our hands, standing on our heads, trying to get people in to talk to them and sell pools. And we had a big list of pool service jobs and everything like this, probably more than what we could handle. But some of them,
we were right at the front.
Very
Two booths
first
right
one.
at the front.
Yeah.
The pool, and remember we put the pool up, and then we used those stackable wall blocks around the back side of the wall.
Around the back side of the wall, yeah.
Walls and different worlds.
It was a lot of work.
What was the first year?
The first year was a basic booth. Was a basic 10 by 10 booth, and I imagine I had scraped any type of pictures that we had. It wasn't so easy to print pictures. Just think about just 20-some years ago, you couldn't just go print them up or go to the internet and have them shipped to you. You had to go to someone who could style set them and then print them. And so a simple picture, a picture this big was
150 bucks.
No, 100 to 150 to 200 bucks they were expensive. And I think we had a couple of them mounted on foam, and it was probably 300 bucks for those 2 or 3 pictures. And our book that we had started with, and we were off and running.
Later on, it came to tiki huts. You remember those?
Yeah.
Now those were a ball to bring in because they were heavy.
Move in and out. Yeah. No, it was that second year was a bit of a pivotal year for us, because that was a huge expense for me at that time to be able to afford a couple spaces and then everything it took to put it together.
Now at that time, we were still going with the original name Patella Pools.
Yep.
And Gary had his own Patella Pools, but I remember him coming in, riding on your
space. Yep.
On your apron strings, man.
So now isn't that funny? For 10 years, Gary, or more, Gary did that. He never paid for booth space, never helped to pay for any of the space.
He didn't even help set up or that.
Nothing. Nope.
He would just come in with his brochures.
Yep. And he would sell pools in our booth.
Pools.
And I imagine that was at least 10 years worth. Is that interesting?
And remember, Katie and Justy would come here with their
Little
snotty
bitty,
nose running around the place. Oh, Dad, I want to go home.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun.
It's much easier to talk about Gary doing that now that he's no longer with us.
But that,
Mike just mentioned that Gary, for at least 10 years, came in our booth, manned our booth, and took leads for 10 years and never paid for a penny of the booth.
Never helped set up.
Never helped set up, never torn down. He just showed up.
With a handful of his brochures.
And he would sell any projects that were out toward Livingston County. He would pull the people away and take them over. I think I know. I think
he just was cheap.
Yeah, I think that was part of it, but I think there was more to it. I think that he felt that it was okay for him to do that because he got Livingston County in the deal when Ernie sold the business to us. And yet, Ernie's deal with me was completely separate to Ernie's deal with Gary. And I think Gary felt that in the deal, he was buying Livingston County telepools from Ernie, and I was buying the other counties in the Detroit area. And
ever bring it up to you?
it came up a few times, and I get that sense that that's what it was. Something like I owed him.
Yeah. Through conversations I know I've had with him, where he thought, why is Al, he came out and asked me, why is Al building out here? He's supposed to be down there. Livingston County is mine.
Yeah. See, and yet, if you remember him building on Drake and Farmington, and
he was the first one.
You showed up. Why didn't you stay?
Because it wasn't in me.
He didn't care.
I would rather be me, and I would rather have been the person that did the due diligence and did the work and paid for it. And it was never in what I would never have imagined doing that to someone else. But on the flip side, it wasn't worth the argument, and it wasn't worth to me to create any rift over it. Life is just too short.
He never even said nothing. He was building, and when we actually found out, I was following his trailer with the loader on it. And I said, oh, that's Gary's loader. Because he had that Husky or something.
Yeah, Geel or, some.
And it was a different kind of, and I said, whoa. Then I looked, it's his guys. And they were building not too far from
Mom and Dad's house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's where I saw him, I think in Farmington on some street. I said, whoa. But he never said nothing to us. So he actually crossed the line first.
He crossed the line a lot.
Well, it seemed a lot more cutthroat years ago because most of even the spa guys, everybody seemed pretty cutthroat.
Aggressive, didn't they?
Yeah. It was, everybody was threatened by the other guy taking, although the economy was a little bit different then. And I think you have to advertise. I think now people, when they want something, they go shopping. You don't have to sell it because they'll go on the internet. Most of the people now, I think, are doing their homework prior to actually coming to the pool show. They know the answers. They just, I think, want to see if you're going to give them the same ones. That might be part of the reason why so many pool guys got out, because they don't have the real answers.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to knock the pool, but you have to be well versed between gunite, vinyl liners, and fiberglass. I mean, if someone's going to talk to you, they're going to ask you all those questions. So.
It's a more educated customer.
Oh, very so. Mm-hmm. I mean, customer now, I would say, would be tenfold smarter than they were back then. I mean, you could sell them a bathtub for their backyard.
So think about this. When we were first doing that show, literally the internet was first becoming available to the consumer. I mean, when you think about that, there was no source other than a direct referral or talking directly to a pool company. There was no option for people to learn or educate themselves. You couldn't
find out. The only way you found out was by asking, coming to the...
By meeting and talking to people.
which then it did get people. I remember them coming in and asking me tons and tons of questions. Well, why wouldn't you buy a vinyl liner? Or why would you buy a fiberglass? And they go back and forth, and you're just educating them on what you knew. And then they walk somewhere else and buy the pool.
Yeah. Well, and so when you think about that too, with them being uneducated, all they could really decide on was price.
Yeah.
Hence the cutthroat. Everyone is chasing each other to the bottom, because with an uneducated customer, they don't know the question to ask, and they don't know how to ask it because it's not relevant. So it all had to do with how much does this cost. Where
Like,
today, people are educated.
You were asking the difference. That would be one of the big differences. You would walk up to a pool booth, and the first thing the guy would be grabbing was his pool listing. Well, 18 by 20 would cost this, 10 by, and that's one thing. We never ever had a price. It depends what you want. We can do this. We don't have a price rate.
Yeah,
There's so many other variables you have to, like, okay, what happens if the soil, you can't just dig in it. You have to bring stuff in, or you can't, water table. And that was one thing, when they came to you, you gave them the whole education.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, I'd like to give you a price, but if I dig a hole and I find out you can't have a pool, that's the way it is, so.
I think though, for me, even I look all back those years, price was always kind of the last thing I went to, because you're right, I would rather educate someone about all of these things and then be able to present to them what things were going to cost and that, but I was more of an educator for sure.
Where that hurt though a little bit, it didn't hurt us, because those people were price shopping.
Oh yeah, you waste a lot of time with price shoppers, for sure.
When Al would give them this great education on pools, different mills of the liner and all this, they still went down the road because they had a price listing and they would think they would get that price for $2.50.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case because all the other variables weren't involved. So that was the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah, you're right that it potentially harmed our sales, but on the same token, it also washed out some of those customers that we probably didn't want to deal with.
Yeah, how many unsatisfied customers would there have been? Well, you know what?
There's tons.
Because we ran into this issue, it's going to cost you $2,000 more, which those other companies didn't provide you that.
Well, and the reality was, I would have told them that cost up front. They thought that guy was cheaper because they didn't know something else was coming along, and ultimately they had to spend the money anyway, and they hadn't bought from me. Do we have 8 hours to talk about this? Because I
one
could go.
thing he did learn, not how to fish, because when we both love to fish, but when we go fishing together, it doesn't work very well. Al never catches anything.
That's a really interesting thing. You're right. And all of the fishing trips over all the years, I can't really point to a super successful fishing trip.
Even in South Carolina,
anywhere. Yeah, anywhere.
I mean, even as a kid.
Yeah, anywhere. So who is Mike to me? He married my older sister Barb a long time ago.
40 years.
40 years ago. So when Mike came into my life, I was a young kid, and
snotty.
I probably was a pretty snotty-nosed kid, but I started learning from him immediately, and I think he's out of anyone else in the world, Mike has probably taught me to just try stuff, to just do it. And I remember all those years where you were just like, well, sure, I can build a piece of furniture, and next thing you know, he's building furniture and selling it, or sure, I can, whatever, you name it. And that wasn't part of my world because Dad wasn't like that. I didn't have an example of someone that could just pick up a piece of wood and make a table and chairs out of it. And you were doing that. I think for a while you were selling like garden tables and chairs or something.
Yeah. You were open to learn anything. You're very eager to learn, so I could have told him to make mud pies and he would have done that. So.
But what you did though is you showed me by doing it. you were making things and doing things. And the other thing, a big influence in my life, and I don't think I've ever talked about this, is Mike always said, from the time I was a little kid, he said, mind over matter. He said, you can overcome anything. Your body can overcome anything if you set your mind to it. And that was, I imagined, training that you had from being off at war, or something. There was something, I don't know where. I know a lot of that was from your training and stuff,
Yeah.
but he always believed that the mind over matter, that you could use your mind to get through anything physically at all. And I'd never heard that until he started speaking that way. And that is a huge, I've even shared that with you. That's a huge part of who I am.
If you're going to let yourself cry, you're going to cry. If you tell yourself you're not going to cry, well, you're not going to cry.
You can fight through it, and you can
fight through it and get it done.
Get on with it.
You may cry later, but
right.
You know what? You get through that incident.
And you just press on. I mean, that was a big thing for Mike, was you just press on. You go, whether it's a physical challenge, whether it's a whatever, you just press on. And when I look at my life now, those little lessons, and when I teach kids today and I speak with Molly, I talk about the micro habits. Those are the micro habits. The things that I learned, things like that from you, that your mind is stronger than your body and you can overcome anything when you need to, that's a micro habit that I've placed in my life, that I can do anything for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, whatever I need. It's allowed me to sort of just continually remind myself that you can do anything you have to do. But it starts with your basic message of mind over matter. You just need to put your head in this and you can get through anything you need to get through. And that's a huge piece of who I am as a human being, is one of those micro habits that I developed in my life as a result of your influence on me. And the second one, the second huge one, is that willingness to try anything, to pick up any tool and try it, or to try any new idea that I had, because I saw you do that repeatedly. When I was a little kid, I had none of those influences. When I was 8 or 9 or 10 years old, I had none of those influences that would have said, just try, son. Just go out there and do it. But you were doing that.
That's good. Somebody listened to me. As you get older, people don't listen to you anymore. But yeah, that's good.
So I listened to you when you were young.
So Mike, then you've seen Al go from a little kid to this very old person sitting next to you. So
Settle down now.
What is something that a trait or characteristic in Al that you see that you admire, or that you think is a good part of him?
I think one of the best things that I like him for, he's truthful. He's very sincere and truthful. I never, since even a little kid, saw him go out to hurt somebody. Even saying something negative or saying, boy, you know what, you're dumb, or that's stupid, he would bite his tongue, and never ever have I really heard you say anything negative about anybody or out to hurt them. Mm-hmm. If you made a mistake, well, you said you're sorry, like if you broke something.
Sure.
But other than that, I mean, I think sincerity is what I see the most. And I always liked him for it. I know if I can talk to him about anything, and it's between us. Sometimes you need to vent, and he's my venter. So I'm really proud.
And he's my mentor.
Happy that I came in contact with him.
I think it's interesting just hearing you say that, because our world is kind of full of people that are trying to get that edge, or trying to get something over on someone, and that was never. You're right. I can't remember a single time in my life that I ever intentionally set out to get something over on someone.
No vendettas.
None.
Just like we were talking about Gary a minute ago.
Same thing.
You could have said, yeah, I was going to, but you know what? Why didn't I ask him? Because he came on my side of the street.
Yeah, and
big deal.
And ultimately, like in Gary's case, it helped me because he was there in the booth and he was educated. Yeah. And so from that standpoint, the trade-off was he didn't pay for anything and he got leads, but why get hung up on that? Life is just too short to worry about that kind of stuff. And there's never a reason to, in my mind, to ever try to get something over on someone, or try to snooker them or trick them into something, or just none of that was ever worth it. It's still, and it never will be worth it to me.
That goes back a long way. I sit here and think it seems like yesterday, but I've known him for 40 years.
Yep. 40 plus years.
40
Yep.
plus, actually.
Yep.
But that's a long time. Being he's only 41
Right, I'm only
now,
43 years old now, or 33 or something, in my dreams.
But it's good. He surpassed anything that I think I would like to see. He's done that and did it. I mean, the big thing, he had the pool company, when we first started, there was ways to make money, abundance of it, if you would just do the cut down pool, throw them in, throw them out. At one time, we were doing 40 pools a year. But you know what? That wasn't Al. Al wanted to do something else. He wanted to, and we used to get mad because he would come up with all these strange ideas that we didn't have a clue how to do or how to even start. So that would force him to be on every job because we didn't know what he wanted. So we would shake our heads and get mad at him because we're leaning on shovels while he's hoping we would help him, but we didn't know how to. So I think that was one of the biggest setbacks for me, is like, I wanted to help you, but I'm not sure how to do what you're trying to do.
Well, I couldn't ever be content with the same idea that I'd always done. And you and I had that argument many times, and you had a great way of describing it. He said, get on the railroad track and just ride it. You laid the track down, just ride on the track. And I had no interest, none. With my entire being, I wanted to jump off that track and push and try something more and try something different. And Mike would always say to me, he would say, get back on the track, just let's keep going, we're on the track, we can keep doing this. And I just couldn't stay interested enough.
Yeah, and that's been an ongoing thing. He always had these water features in his mind that he's going to do, whether it's having a little spout of water coming out of someone's concrete into the pool. I mean, that's where I think we started, with a little hose coming out the end with the waterfall. Then it went to sheer descent, and then he was getting these what are they called, the great big sheets of ice.
The sheer descents.
You know, these great big ones. Now we're building walls with these things coming out, and nobody knew. He knew, and we had a rough idea.
The trick is, I didn't know, or the secret behind this, I didn't know either.
Well,
I had no idea how I was going to do it any more than you did. I just did it anyway, and it made it look like you knew what I was doing. That's still how I operate. I still know what I'm doing most of the time.
There was one job we did in Shelby. The lady was real nice, good, and we done where you put the waterfall going over her sidewalk, and then she had one. I mean, we went back and forth with that one a little bit because we didn't have the color scheme, or he didn't make the water pitch right or something. That was a lot of work for, I would say that was maybe one of your first
it was, but
key
But
features.
that was a learning.
Oh,
that was a learning curve, and I was willing to invest in the learning. It hurt when you're losing money and you're going back to try to make things look right. It hurts. But I'll tell you what, without that experience, I couldn't build on that experience to build something else and to build something more interesting and more complicated.
And we're lucky he didn't listen to me, because I was okay, we're done. Shut the pool, get the money, let's go.
We definitely had some fundamental differences about that, and
let's move on.
We had plenty of time. We had plenty of when it came to that, because
I think I was employed for about 15 years.
Yeah, quite a while.
I think I must have quit 6 times.
Probably. I gave you reason.
I quit.
I gave you good reason, because you're right. I didn't want to follow the norm, and I never wanted to do what everyone else was doing.
Never.
And a big part of that was I never wanted to be compared. And when this came up, I think what kind of one of those shift moments for me was when Jimmy Pirla bought 3R Pools, right? And so that was Ernie's son, who we bought the company from. I went on a pool appointment in Wixom, and he had been there, and then I was there. It was in that sub that we built off Charms Road. We built a whole bunch of pools, but it was like the newer section. And the guy looked at me and he said, so you're building the exact same kit as 3R, but you're more expensive by however many $1,000s. And he said, what's the difference? Or why wouldn't I go with this other guy? And I didn't have an answer because I liked Jimmy. I knew he would build a quality pool. He was new and raw to it, but he had worked for his dad, but he was new to owning the business. And so I couldn't tell the customer that. And I remember the feeling, and I said, I have no reason. The only thing is I've been doing this longer and my company's farther down the road than his. But I have no argument as to why you shouldn't save $3,000 and go with Jimmy.
Yeah.
And he did, which I was perfectly okay with. I was in no way about to say anything bad about Jimmy or wrong, but what that did, Mike, was it fundamentally shifted me, and you would have still been part of the company at that time, and I may never have talked about it, but I decided then and there I would never be equal or compared to anyone else.
I remember that transition.
There was never going to be a point where someone could go apples to apples, anything. Because you hear that all the time. Well, we've got to compare apples to apples. Well, I don't want the apples to ever be comparable. And so that's when the shift started happening, that I was always going to provide something different than anyone else. So I never had to feel that way because I didn't want to badmouth Jimmy. I liked Jimmy. I was appreciative because his dad sold me a company and his dad bet on me. And so I would never wanted to do that to someone, but I never wanted to feel that way again. And so that started the change for me to say, no matter what I do, I will never be compared to someone else. To this day, you can't compare my work to anyone else's. I'm not saying better or worse or quality or this or that, but what we do and how we do it and the process we do and how we make people feel, you can't compare us to anyone in the industry. And that's because of that one thing that happened to me. I never wanted to feel that way again.
Well, that's part of goes back to that integrity and honesty I was talking about.
Yep.
At the time, that was when everybody else had their price list.
It was all about making money and making it quick and trying to do the best that you could do.
18 by 12. Well, here how much it's going to cost.
Yep. See, and I never wanted that. I mean, call me maybe it's not a smart businessman or whatever, which I've never claimed to be a smart businessman, but I didn't want to just be what any other company was. And that's why I resisted. And everything we did, I pushed for more and I pushed for different. And you know, I needed the money, but I never cared about the money. The money was going to be there or it wasn't. But if I wasn't having fun, I didn't want to do it. And I wanted to continually push myself.
Yeah. That's when you were transitioning that philosophy. Same thing in the service department.
Same thing.
Everything. I would say your company took a turn for the better.
Yeah.
You had more satisfied customers because you were satisfied.
Yeah.
And you weren't bickering back and forth about price. You either took them they took you for what you gave them, or you didn't.
Yeah. So what I eventually, and I've only recently stumbled on this formula, but it rings true, and now I completely understand why most construction projects, not just pools, but why most construction projects go sour. I probably described this to you before, but I'll do it because the camera's on. You have a customer and you have a company. If you have a great company and a crappy customer, bad combination. If you have a great customer and a crappy company, bad combination. If you have a bad customer and a bad company, bad combination. Yeah, there's only one. So 1 out of 4, 25% of the time, do you match good company with good customer. Good company, good customer, meshes together, magic happens. So what we've done is we've decided we are a good company. We've worked really hard making sure that we're a good company. We refuse to settle for a bad customer because you mix good company, bad customer, it's a lose. So we only select a good customer because we are a good company, and when you put that together, that's where magic happens. And that's the difference, fundamentally, that's the difference that you see with our company today, is we're a good company with a good customer. Back in those days, we were really a good company. We had our challenges primarily because of the bad customers we kept interacting, and I didn't understand that. If I knew it then, I wouldn't have talked to those customers or taken them. But now that I understand, I've always strived to be a good company. Have I done everything right? No, but I've certainly tried, and you've seen me go through the ups and downs and to try to be the best company and best person I could be. Yeah. But now when we match a good customer every single time with that good company, that's the magic for our company today, our magic for our lives. There's no stress, and we're happy.
Your customers today, I tell you, they become your family.
They are.
It is unreal. I would say, I really noticed this maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. You had a good relationship, but it seemed like now they became your family. I mean, they're over on holidays, they have parties. I mean, you're invited.
We're invited. Yep.
It's more than just a friendship or a working relationship. They became family. They became something, know their kids. Their kids come over. I mean, you go there. Who's the pool in Farmington Hills near me?
Yeah, the Sanders.
Yeah, those
It's a
people
perfect
there,
example.
I mean, you're like cousins to them or something.
Well,
it's
and
unreal.
That difference too is that we want to make sure that we're just not family until the project is done. We want to be there year in and year out. So it's not like, oh, let's go to that, let's be a part of their lives just for this period of time. We want the long term. And you know what? It becomes really difficult on our end because our family continues to grow.
Yeah.
Where their family is still what it is, and we're just one little part of it. But our pool family, every single year, grows that much more.
Bigger.
And we have to try to jostle, and so getting to all the parties, it's not as feasible as we would like it to be, but we want to. We want to be at all those things that we get invited to. It's just not always so easy because our family has grown exponentially in terms of we have a relationship with someone, but now I have 3 more relationships and 5 more relationships and 8 more relationships that I have to manage at the same time. That part becomes difficult.
I love it because I don't know how many pool parties I've been invited
to go to
these customers
that
I don't even know yet, but all of a sudden they're my cousins.
Get to go. That's right.
So this is working out great, I tell you. Pool parties, pizza, and,
absolutely,
and everything to go with it. It's really great.
Stuff starts coming back, and there's all kinds of those crazy-ass stories that happened to us because we were a train wreck waiting to happen, weren't we? And yet our heart was good, our intentions were good. And because of that, I think ultimately because of that, we weren't out to screw somebody. We weren't out to hurt them. We just hurt ourselves more than we hurt anybody else.
But I'll never forget that. I went downstairs and this couldn't be from me. But the hose went past the house, but because there were...
It makes total sense. Those little bungalows, those little houses like that, you never knew what you were dealing with.
They had ground stuff. And
was that maybe Allen Park or somewhere? Right
Allen Park.
At the end of Southfield Freeway.
Right.
Yep. And those houses, they were jammed on top of each other.
I think a single woman lived there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think
and she had a boyfriend.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who, again, the names just get blurry and I don't remember many of those anymore.
Wow. That was...
Oh, boy.
Or Mike Lane driving back and all of a sudden the trailer lets loose from the dump truck. Swipes out a car. The Chinese guy was in the car. He couldn't speak English, so they left him alone.
Well, Mike Lane had 2 examples of trailers letting go. Do you remember the time that he was on his way down to, there was that supplier right there on Grand River, just east of Telegraph, or whatever they were, Palm Pools. He left Palm Pools and he is heading back up Grand River and he looks, the trailer's right next to him. And he said he watched it launch itself, it's a split highway, the road there, went across oncoming traffic and hit one of those, the brick, there's that big cemetery there.
Yeah.
And it buried into that and busted up that thing and he wheeled around there, backed up, hooked it up and took off. But you think of how many times stuff like that could hurt people. You know, I mean, that ran at 50 miles an hour right into oncoming traffic and then veered right off and hit a concrete post or a brick post. Yeah, I mean, that stuff is, there's a lot of those that we got really lucky. We got really lucky.
Oh man, really?
Did I ever tell you the time, I don't know if I told you or not, before I bought the company, and Ernie still had the company, Dad had wanted me to do something at the Howard Roadhouse. So after work, I hooked up Ernie's, I never told him, I hooked up the trailer in his Bobcat to bring it to Dad's house to do something on Howard Road. I got there on the road and I go to take the machine off the trailer. I had never locked the pintle hook down on the trailer. It was still up. So I drove the whole way with that not being latched down. One single bump in that machine and trailer would have been gone.
Bounced right off.
I would have gone. Yeah, so fortunately the weight, maybe it held down enough. I got there and I was panicked once I saw it because I never had asked Ernie if I could borrow the machine. I just took it. I thought, oh, you know, it's close, and then I'll just do, Dad needed some rocks moved or something graded. I'll just do that, and then I'll just bring it back, and he'll never know the difference. And then I just think of what that call could have been a disastrous phone call.
Wow.
Yeah. So you make those. I made that mistake once. Never made that again. No. Nope. That trailer. First thing I do is make sure that trailer is locked down, and I never let anyone else do it for me if I can help it. But yeah, boy, that's a place I don't like to play in my mind, is some of those near accidents. I mean, it's good that they didn't happen.
Yeah.
And you know, then we had things that did happen, big deal. But yikes, some of that is pretty freaky.
I've got the sweetest, slowest golden retriever in the world. Very lovable. It's my wife's dog. It hangs on her. She feeds it. I'm the disciplinarian. So when I come in, the head goes down. She's got a way of squinting her eyes, and I don't know what that is. When I come in, like, please don't holler at me. So she's good. She's listening. Took a little while. We call her duh-duh-duh because she was a little bit slow. And my son gave her that name. It's like she didn't understand anything we were saying. So, but now she's getting more mature. They're a year old now, and she's doing great. She reacts real good. I don't have to worry about a leash. Other dogs are walking by that I have to tell her no. I mean, it took almost up to that 1 year for her to all of a sudden come within herself and realize, oh, they're cool. So she sleeps right at the foot of my bed. She's a fur ball. She sheds like no other. We have it all over the house. In fact, I thought I had a fur coat on the other day. It's pretty good. She's the biggest dog out of her litter. We had her spayed, and I don't know whether it's that or we feed her too much. So
is she the biggest or the roundest?
Yeah, the roundest.
Yeah, right. Okay, there we go. She's the roundest.
And what's his name, and how did you choose her name?
My wife chose her name, and it is Riley. Sorry, I had a stroke, and sometimes I forget what I want to say. But her name is Riley, which is good. We have another dog named Roxy, which belongs to my son. So we had a caregiver come in and take care of my sister-in-laws who have a little shortcomings. And she started to call them Rock and Ride. So now we call our dogs Rock and Ride.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
So that's pretty good, like a bottle of pop. But they're good. They're both good dogs. All the litter, you think about it, they're all good. None of them, the only one that growls a little bit is Kelly's.
Yeah, Kelly does.
She's got a little bit of a growl, but I think she doesn't growl out of meanness. It's her way of saying hi instead of wagging her tail, because you can sit there and pet her and she's all excited and she's growling. So I'm sure she's a little confused.
Yeah, she's glad. Well, we call those that squinty eyes. Her mother and her grandmother have them. We call those her Gilbert Godfrey eyes.
Yeah.
Kind of that squeeze her eyes.
I never saw that before. It's sort of.
They all do it. Yes. Yeah. Bob gets in trouble.
He bows his head, and
He knows. He doesn't Gilbert Godfrey eyes though.
I feel so guilty, more so
I know.
than
It's such a cute face. I know.
It's like a little kid starting to cry before,
before you punish them. She already knows she's going to cry. Or when you wake them up. If they're startled away, if they're kind of jerked awake, they kind of...
Yeah, they in the morning.
Sometimes, yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't believe that. I'm happy to know that it's...
There's nothing wrong with her.
I thought maybe she was a little retarded, but...
No, I don't think so.
She's doing good. Yes, in fact, I may become a surrogate owner of one because my other son has, not from the same litter, he got his dog from Belgium, somewhere overseas, a rescue dog. And the dog is just too much for my daughter-in-law to take care of. So we're probably going to take it in, give it to Al and Sandy for a few months until we move into our new house. I hope.
Are we talking about Matt's dog or?
No.
Michael's dog. Michael's.
It's a golden retriever too.
It's the golden from the Polish golden or something from Belgium. Belarus? No, I don't remember. Yeah, it could be.
I forgot where it's from, but it was really
somewhere
funny.
Overseas. Yeah.
I had the dog for a long weekend because the kids went somewhere, and so I babysat. And this is shortly after they got it, and the dog wouldn't listen. Like, come here, sit down. Wouldn't do anything. So I went up on the internet and asked, how do you say come? And I forgot what language it was.
You're right. What
and
language was it?
Went up on the internet. It told me. I did, and all of a sudden I said to the dog, and he. So
it didn't know English.
Yeah, you have to. If you knew the other language, you were in good shape.
Yeah, what language? I remember you telling me, and I can't remember now what it was.
I can't remember. I googled it and.
Turkish, or.
I think it was
Turkey. Might have been Turkish. Yeah, it might have been Turkey. Yeah.
And then
he learned the command words in Turkish, and the dog started listening to him. They were fine. Yep.
Yeah, so he's a good dog around other dogs. You can tell he lived on the streets.
He's a little skittish. I mean, a little bit, but...
We have a fenced-in yard, and there was a rabbit on the other side of the fence. That dog was through and over that fence and on that rabbit before we could stop it.
It's because he had to eat.
He had to eat. I mean, he's bred to... It's like that with squirrels. He'll go to no end to catch that critter.
They just chomped on him.
Yeah.
They broke him. They broke him immediately. Like they.
Yeah.
They tried to get two of them in their mouth, and yeah. Yeah, there was something weird. Those ducks were interesting.
But
the chickens.
They're bred to be foul
retrievers. Yeah, the retrievers.
Now our dog's a good retriever, real good hunting. It just their fur is so long. You get all these burrs when you take them out and
take them
in the field.
Yeah.
So that's a bad thing. I like.
We have a cult that'll take those out like nothing.
Really, I'm gonna have to see what kind it is, because.
Remember when Callie
Yeah. Somebody had a whole pile of them.
Bear. In fact, last year I shaved the dog. That's one of the reasons why we had the haircut. But I tell you, that's the main reason why I won't. Listens out, stays the distance. I didn't have to do much training with it. You know, Shina was good too.
Yep.
His other dog was good, better than mine, and Shina would know.
Yeah, she just didn't.
Stay the distance.
She just didn't get a lot of opportunity.
No, as she got older, she.
Yep. She would have been. She was a good dog.
Yeah, because I would babysit.
Yep.
And I had a German Shepherd then.
Yeah, you had Lady at the time. Yep.
And my Shepherd didn't know what to do, but Shina would go out there, stay 20, 30 feet, shotgun range, and just go back and forth like it was supposed to. Yep. It wasn't a pointer, but it was a flusher, which is good. So
that. Briggs is a pointer. Marks.
Yeah.
Briggs. Yeah, he points all the time.
See, that's good. Now I want a pointer because I'm getting older. I move slower.
Yeah, you want to know where it is that you're going to be
Yeah.
shooting instead of just a random shot once they flush them.
Yeah, I would like to know, when are you going to let them go fishing? Because spring, April is trout fishing again. So our new house is right near some nice streams, and
So I'm going to have to be working up there a lot.
yeah, so you know, at least come in and inspect. So
Right.
and that would be good. As a, you know, I'm so proud of him. I'm being very honest here. From knowing you as a kid, and I never considered you like a son, just a young man. And
A young brother,
you
yeah.
came along a lot of way. Your sincerity always taught me some things, because I'm not very sincere. So, so I tried
Okay,
to learn
so,
from you.
So the difference too, though, is you were kind of a street kid. You grew up in the city, and
Yeah, I'm like
you know,
that
growing
dog
up-
that would go
Yeah,
through
kind
the
of.
fence.
I mean, you think
Get that
about
rabbit.
you think about the difference of our childhood lifestyles, though, is you grew up in that environment that you probably had to fight for what you wanted more, and you know, you kind of had that.
Yeah, I
little
don't
bit,
know about.
little
I
bit
was
more
a
of that.
sissy, so.
Yeah, okay. He was a
But
sissy.
yeah, it was. I would think that would be it. I'm just so proud of him. As of anything for him, I think, truthfully, I think he's doing everything he wants to do, and I think that's the key part. I mean, it's not about riches and stuff like that for him. I'm sure his wife and kids would like that, but it's not about that. It's about living his life the way he wants to without hurting anybody. And I think he does that pretty well. So I'm impressed. I'm happy for you.
Well said. I would agree with that. I've been really fortunate to live the life that I want to live.
Yeah.
And you're right, because my focus hasn't been the money and the riches and the things so much. My family probably has had to adjust to that, because most people want more
Material
of a lifestyle,
things,
more
sure.
of a, but I've really been fortunate to just live a really yummy life.
Although I never heard anybody from your family complain.
Yeah.
Not one of your girls,
You're amazing.
not your wife.
Yeah.
They love on you more than any other guy I know gets loved on. So,
I'm a fortunate guy.
yeah.
Yeah, right here.
See what I tell you?
See?
She could have came to Uncle Mike. No, but instead she goes to.
This is my baby girl.
Sandy,
Oh.
Sandy.
My eldest baby girl. Yeah.
I,
It's cuddle.
yeah, give me a little
Time
huddle.
for
It's time for a cuddle. Oh, oh.
Mm.
I'm
Awesome.
sure she feels that way about you too.
Bob
Can
knows.
you handle me all up in
Oh,
your lap?
yeah.
There we go.
Tell me who hasn't. The whole family has. I was telling him today, man, you know what? He can't let this company, you know, fold up any, because both you and he both have your families. This
Take
is
care of.
family oriented. If he dies, everyone dies. So he can't afford it. I mean, I think out of your family, I think I was the first one, other than your wife, of course.
Yep.
I was the first one, and then we had cousins,
Oh, yeah.
nephews, me,
Nieces. Yeah,
nieces.
the whole
They come down
sister-in-laws.
from Florida and work for the summer.
Brothers. Yep.
And brothers.
Spouses.
Yeah, he supported. Yeah, just
Yeah.
think about it.
Sister-in-laws. Yep.
Say it's been a family pool.
Well, I was fortunate, Mike, to have those years with your boys working.
Ah,
You know, I look at what I gained in the relationship with them, and that was really cool.
I think that was the best. Well, even at my son's wedding, they gave a eulogy almost to how great Al was. Remember? Was that Mike or Al? I don't know.
Actually, they both said it. Michael
Yeah.
Michael
I mean-
was talking, but then Matt was the one that
I mean-
also.
Al taught him a lot of work ethics. Taught him. They broke all his tools and not mine.
Which is
So
always
that-
good.
That was good, but yeah, he taught him how to work and work hard. Good ethics. So, and they, you know what? Up to today, they both were talking on the phone deal. We had a threesome on a, what do you call it when you stand?
A three-way.
Three-way call. And they were both talking how great it was working for you and how much they learned and what a pain in the butt you were sometimes and how they hated to do that or hated to do this. But you know what? They learned for it.
They did it. Yep.
And they learned you work until you get the job done. It was 12, 14 hours at work. Plus, both of them paid their way through college off of your money. I mean.
So they worked for it.
Yeah, I mean, neither one of them have a college note because between that and what little bit we helped them with room and board, they paid for everything else. Yeah. So, you know, that was worked out pretty good. I'm happy. Plus, you were young enough then. You taught them a way of life a little bit.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You're a good philosopher, and you like to educate. You love to talk.
Oh yeah.
And you make sense when you talk. So
that helps sometimes.
Yeah. And then you came along, Sandy Mackey, and took my job away.
So, at the beginning, did that threaten you at all?
Threaten me? I was pissed off. No. You know, it was nothing but good, though.
Mike and I had a bit of a tough start.
Yeah. It's like, she's doing everything I used to do. But you do it better. And truthfully, I don't think it'd be where it was today without you. So, you know, that's...
What you learn about her early on is she just takes over. It doesn't matter whose job it is, she just takes it. And you got to find something else to do sometimes because she just takes it. And it certainly has allowed her company to grow in a way
I wasn't used to firing redhead coming telling me
what to do or who to be or how to speak or how to act.
Yeah, finally, when I figured I can't work anymore, I may as well. So. I could have never brought this company to where it is because I just wasn't there at all. But you have a lot of knowledge and you're not scared, which is good. You're one of those try anything. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, fear is not something that I would ever describe as a trait that you possess. Because I don't know, maybe you are fearful at times, but the rest of us would never know ever that she's afraid of something because she just always just goes at it.
You have no emotion.
Yeah, that's a blank face.
Yeah, right, no emotion.
You've got to admit, compared to 1995 when I came around and was with you to where you are today, it's awesome. I mean, it is awesome.
It's a night and day company. It's a night and day switch. It's very different.
Oh, it is.
I mean, that was still good for what it was, but this is very different, very different. And I got to tell you, there's so much less stress.
It's like there's a total package now.
Yeah.
Before, it wasn't a total package.
Well, we were so busy being busy back then. We were going so fast and so hard for so little money that, you know, the margins weren't there. We were trying to be competitive, and we were struggling just to survive almost.
At one time, you had 26 or 27 people working for them.
On weekends, it was
and we were just spinning wheels.
We were just throwing mud against. I remember some of those weekends. We'd get all those kids would come in, and we had just loads and loads of people, and we would just have to throw them at jobs to try to get anything done. And yeah, that was a tough time.
If you had 20 new hammers, and you gave 20 guys new hammers, 20 guys would come back that day with 20 broken hammers. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was, the cars were breaking down. They beat them to death. I mean,
yeah, they didn't care. They weren't their cars. They're their trucks.
How did you learn to do it differently?
I think it came from their homes. I think some of them just didn't have the upbringing of, like, I would tell him, pick up your stuff, like when you were at the house, pick that up, put that back in the garage, or, you know, and, you know, I don't think a lot of younger people have that today.
Those kids, though, I was just telling someone earlier, those kids all well, for at least all of the kids that I do know about, went on to lead really good, successful lives.
Oh yeah.
And they all are, that particular group was all kids that spent time together. They still do. And they're now in their late 30s or 40s. And the last time I had a conversation, he had said, Bubba Erickson was the one that had said, we talk about you all the time, and we all realize how much you taught us about life and how to work. You know, so each one of them, as they came to us, not being able to hit a nail with a hammer, left with life skills that took them a good trajectory through their lives, and they
didn't
think
learn
back,
at home. Yeah.
they think back fondly to those times because they didn't learn anywhere else. And that was a part of. And what was your question then?
My question was, how did you come from that? How did you get out of just throwing people at jobs and spinning the wheels? How did you get out of the mud?
That all came about, I think, that transition phase.
Yeah.
When he decided that he's going to pick who his customers are. The customers aren't going to pick
him anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about how I couldn't justify why a customer shouldn't go with that guy instead of me, providing the same pool, the same packages, and that he was $3,000 less. And I had no desire to badmouth, no desire to in any way paint that other guy in a negative light. And I realized, having felt that way, I never wanted anyone to be able to compare anything that we do on an apples to apples basis. You know, because you always compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges. I wanted there to never be one bushel that could possibly be compared to another bushel. And so through that, and through a lot of mistakes, and then also through, in large part, her leadership in terms of how we can see our way through this at that point, at least in recent years. I mean, I by the time that you weren't working as much, I was still in that quagmire, but it was getting better. It was getting different, but I was burning out. I was tired of it. But in the last decade, it really came down to making better choices, trying things that were manageable, but also knowing that someone there that was steering the ship while I was out doing all the stupid shit that I was trying to figure out.
You got the captain and you got the pilot.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think we couldn't find it early on. You and I couldn't find it because of the notion that in my head that we needed more. So
and
as
we were
I was
too
pushing,
close.
well, yeah, but I don't even think it was that. I think it was that's all on me, that I had this notion that bigger company, expand more, do more work, take more jobs, have more, and all of that translated into more work, less money. But in my mind, ego maybe, just not knowing, expanding a company is bigger than shrinking a company, all of those thoughts, you know, that was what was going on in my head, and I was overselling stuff that I shouldn't have been selling, and I was pushing for more, and then he couldn't manage that for me, and I couldn't manage it, and then we could never catch up. So year after year after year, it was this tumbling game. I do think, Mike, if I hadn't been that person, I think we could have had a much more even keel. I mean, we made it through all those years, and we were successful in those years, but we could have...
Nobody starved, you're right.
But it wouldn't have been so tumultuous had I not been pushing for more. And I'm not saying at that time it wasn't better jobs, it was just more jobs.
I think the company now is phenomenal. I mean, you can't, where else can you go? Have you really stopped to think about it? Where can you go where you can have that family oriented? If you want to get bigger and start, you know what, you're going to revert back to what
Absolutely.
It was starting off. So
yeah.
I'm like I said, I think you're doing good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of you.
And I would
even if you got a redhead as a partner. I just enjoyed the memories
There's some
and
memories.
what is it when you
memory lane or
Reminisce.
memory lane. Yeah.
Reminiscing over the old times. I think since we started, I've been getting all these little flashbacks in my head, and the goods and the bads. And
there's a lot of them.
Oh,
you know,
man.
you and I have a laundry list a mile long.
I'll tell you one. Oh, this is all coming off that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember the customer.
There are a lot of
Those
stupid
crazy
things we
memories.
did. Or here's another good one I did. I was draining a pool. I don't know whether we were going to put a new liner in it. And it was downtown Detroit, like Royal Oak, I forgot where, downriver somewhere, where the houses are all real close
together.
Bungalowed close to each other, and you only got a driveway. Well, I'm dumping this pool, and the hose couldn't reach all the way down to the road, so it had a good incline. Hi, gang. So I start to pump up. Do you remember this?
I'm remembering. Oh, careful, Bob.
So I start to pump up, start draining. All of a sudden, the neighbor came over and said, "My basement is full of water."
Oh, I remember that.
And the basement flood. I went down there and looked, and it had 2 feet of water in the guy's basement.
Oh no.
There were rat tunnels in that, and instead of the water going
down to the road,
it went into this guy's basement.
Flooded his basement.
And there were
So
2
what did you
feet.
do next?
Al, you're not going to be too happy. We got to.
And then what happened?
And then we
Called the insurance.
ran away.
What did you do?
We called the insurance,
Insurance.
and their insurance took care of it.
Insurance had to cover
I don't
it.
know whether it was yours or his, but
I don't remember either, but yeah, I remember that one.
2 feet of, and he
Water.
had a finished basement with furniture, because he said, "Come here, go look at my basement." I went downstairs, and I'm not 2 feet of water. I flooded it out. I was past the house, but because there were so many, in the
It just
city,
would flood
rats
and-
underneath the concrete, it all went towards their house.
Yeah. We've had a few of those
Major
crazy
goof-ups,
mishaps.
yeah.
Yeah, there were some of those. But
And you know
that's
what?
part
It
of
always
living.
cost Al. Because there were, how many liners did put in? It was the wrong one, or we ripped
Oh,
it.
we sliced it with the razor blade, or yeah, those
Yeah.
are. Yeah,
Oh, well.
I try not to add those memories up. I try to leave them separate. If I added those up, I probably would start to cry when I realize how many stupid things we did. But that was a part of it.
Or when we first were starting, we poured a concrete deck. It got too cold. 2 years later, you went pulled that deck
We
out
tore it all out and redid it. Yes, we did.
for your dime. Wow.
Yeah, that was about a $4,000
Mistake?
back in those days. Yep. I mean, not only that, but then the lost cost of those guys not working
Yeah.
somewhere else to make money, it was
Oh yeah.
losing money.
Yeah,
I mean,
$15,000.
oh yeah, probably, likely.
Because that was a pool you weren't doing.
Yep. We weren't working on something else while we were